It's entirely natural. Even the ancient Stoics knew that grief is entirely natural. They wouldn't expect you to just think your way out of grief. You have to go through it. You have to experience it. Working out during grief has been one of those things that I really don't want to do, but I'm glad I did once it's done. My depression has been bad and my strength is down. A lot. And for the first time I can remember, I have no real desire to work out. I do find that if I just say to myself, go in and lift the empty bar up and down 10 times, that's better than nothing. At least I get moving. After that, if I still want to stop, I will. If it feels fine, I'll keep going. I usually end up finishing the workout anyway, because it usually does feel better once it's started. Those are words from Jeff Nippard, who is a very popular guy in the bodybuilding world right now. He's a science-based lifter, and he unfortunately had his partner tragically pass away, very young. It's very tragic. And so he posted this video, and it resonated with me quite a bit, and it points to a very good grounding idea around difficult times. And so obviously, when someone you love passes away, you're going to go through a grief period. Grief is essentially the letting go of love. And so if you think about love as this thing where, when you love someone, you care deeply for them, and you have to kind of fuse your soul with them, so to speak. That's what you do when you love someone. You fuse your soul with them to some degree. And then when they pass away, your soul is still fused with them. And so you have to let that go. And that letting go process, that unfusing, is called grief. And this is true. This is not, when I say soul, I don't mean the Catholic soul. I mean the Stoic soul. I mean your character, who you are, your daily life, your daily routine, which is true. So when I say soul, I mean when you're fusing your soul with someone you love, you're fusing your daily life, your routine, how you think about things, what your priorities are. And then grief as the natural follow-through from that, after someone's passed away, well, you have to learn new routines, new habits, new daily thoughts, new perspectives. Anytime you think naturally, okay, I'm going to go home and see my friend or my partner, is replaced over time with, I'm going to go home and do something else or see somebody else. And that transition process is called grief. And grief is very difficult. It's a very challenging thing. And it's one of those things that if someone you love passed away, the right response is grief. There's nothing going wrong when you go through a grieving period. It is a natural part of loving someone when they pass away. And so Jeff Nippard, he's grieving, and he releases this video with these very, very true words. And I can relate to this, and maybe you can too. So during COVID, 2020, when COVID first kicked off, I had a squat bar and a squat stand and some weights that I had at the local gym that I was going to, and it was a boxing gym, and they didn't have their own weights. So I purchased my own, and I held them there. And as soon as COVID hit, I took all of that stuff and I put it in my 2014 Honda Accord, and I drove it to my apartment, and I set everything up because I did not want to not work out during a pandemic that could last who knows how long. And I was living in Quebec at the time, and Quebec was very strict on when you could go out of your house and when you had to stay inside. All that to say, I didn't really leave the house that much. I was in an apartment by myself, and I had my gym equipment set up in a room. And I remember not wanting to work out. I remember working out, but I remember not wanting to. I remember getting up in the morning, and work wasn't busy for me at the time. I didn't have a very demanding job at the time, and so I would get up and I open my emails. I might do a little bit of work, but really I wasn't really doing anything. I was just doing other stuff. I was gaming or reading or doing or playing guitar, whatever occupied my mind. And 4 o'clock would roll around or 5 o'clock, and I would want to work out, but I really wouldn't want to work out. I wanted myself to want to work out, but I didn't really desire it. In fact, it was very difficult for me to go in and start lifting weights. A strong reluctance, not the kind that you get every day before a workout, not the kind where you get up in the morning and you got to work out and you're like, God, I don't want to go to the gym. And all right, we'll go do it anyway. No, it was like, I really, really do not want to work out. To my core. Hey there. Let me thank you for being a listener to this ad-free podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, there are a few things you can do to help me out. A 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this really does help, and it's free. You can also sign up for my Substack newsletter or Patreon. Substack free gets each episode emailed to you along with the transcripts in the form of an article. You'll also get access to my live talks, followed by a Q&A afterward. Substack Premium supporters and my patrons on Patreon get access to the recordings and a brief article of those Q&A sessions, access to full episodes of the Paradoxically Speaking podcast, my Steps to Success interview series, Stoic meditations, and much more. Links to Substack and Patreon can be found in the show notes. But I knew some very important things about myself. I knew that I had to work out for me to be healthy physically. I knew that I had to work out to be healthy mentally. I knew there was a pandemic going on that could last God knows how long. I knew that from a history of working out for like 15 years, I knew that every time I work out, I feel better after. And so I knew this. And even though I knew this fact about myself, these facts, I could not easily go in and start working out. And there's one mentality, there's one perspective that helped me. And it's the same one that Jeff Nippard talked about in his video. And that is, when you're confronted with something that you have to do, that you really don't want to do, the hardest step is the first one. If you have a long run that you really don't want to do, that you've promised yourself you would, the hardest step is the first one. And so you don't need to think about the 9,999 steps you have to take after that first one. You just have to think about and worry about and focus on that first step. Now, this takes a little bit of training to do, but really not that much. It's a very freeing mentality. And the lovely thing about this, if you're really struggling, again, if you're in this situation where you really just don't want to go existentially, you don't want to go, You don't just focus on that first step. You put all of your priority into that first step. Meaning, you tell yourself, if I only do the first step, that's okay. So to bring it back to the gym example, working out, you don't need to tell yourself, I'm going to go in and do a 90-minute workout and I'm going to do 4 sets of 10 on 6 different exercises and I'm going to hit biceps and triceps and shoulders. You don't need to do all that. All you need to do is get your shoes on and go to the gym. All you need to do is tell yourself, why don't I just lift the barbell and see how I feel? And the most crazy thing happens when you do this. It's what Jeff Nippard is talking to, and it's what I've experienced, not just in the gym, but in many areas of life. That once you take a first step, the second step is easier. And the third step is easier. Because you have something. You get something after that first step. And it's called inertia. Look this up, dear physicists. Inertia is the tendency for objects to stay in motion when they're already in motion, and the tendency of objects to stay still when they are still. Meaning if you have a rock, its tendency is to stay still if it's not moving. If you roll it, its tendency is to keep rolling. Now, it won't keep rolling forever because there's something called friction, which takes away energy. But if you think about it in space, if there's an object still, it's going to stay still. And if you push it, it's going to get pushed and it's going to keep going. And the same thing is true for you. If you get your shoes on, chances are you're going to leave the house. And if you leave the house, the chances are you're going to get into your car. And if you get into your car, the chances are you're going to start your car up and drive to the gym. And if you do all that, you're probably going to get out of the car and walk into the gym. And if you've come all this way, well, you just as well get the empty barbell and put it on the rack and do a couple warm-up sets. And well, I'm already here, so why don't I just load up some plates and start squatting some weight? All right, a little bit more. Okay, I've done 2 working sets. I just as well do one more and another one. Just as well do a couple accessories. And before you know it, you got a 90-minute workout in or an hour workout in. Now, this episode, as I'm sure you are smart enough to understand, is not just about going to the gym. It's about everything. It's about everything in life. It's about that work day that you're dreading, that meeting that you're dreading. It's about that date that you're nervous about. In fact, really what we're talking about here is the fundamental idea in Stoicism of how to be courageous. It's like, how do you act courageously when you're afraid? Well, you just do it. That's the answer. The answer nobody likes, but that's the answer. You just do it. But how do you do it? The first step. And then the second. And then the third. On to completion. So whatever's scaring the hell out of you right now, whatever you're afraid of, understand that there is this phenomenon in physics called inertia. And what it means is that if you stay still, the tendency is that you're going to remain staying still. And that's why you feel that reluctance to go and do anything. But that's a double-edged sword, dear listener, because the other end of that is if you are moving, the tendency is that you're going to keep moving. And so don't worry about the 59 minutes in the gym after the first minute. Just worry about the first minute. And be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Tell yourself, if I go in and I do a minute and I'm done, I'm done. And you know what? Maybe you will. Maybe you'll go in and you'll do a minute and you'll be like, it's just not happening today. And then you go home and you try again tomorrow. And that's okay too. But probably what will happen, because of this idea of inertia, is you're going to gain momentum. And the second step will be easier than you expected. And the third, well, by the third step, you're well on your way. So focus on that first step. And one last word on grief. Grief is challenging. It's entirely natural. Even the ancient Stoics knew that grief is entirely natural. They wouldn't expect you to just think your way out of grief. You have to go through it. You have to experience it. And how do you experience it? Not 60 days of grief all at once, but by 1 minute at a time, by 1 hour at a time, one day, one workout, one phone call with a friend. And so if you are, by chance, going through grief right now, it's okay. Be gentle with yourself. But also understand that everything moves forward. Yes, by all of the other subsequent steps. But mostly, it's that first step that gets you back on the right track. So take it.